6 months ago, Donald Trump threatened to arrest him if he won the election. He won anyway. And then he walked into the Oval Office, sat across from Trump, called him a fascist to his face when a reporter asked, and Trump laughed and said, "That's okay, you can just say it." That's the world Zohran Mamdani inhabits right now. And it should tell you something important about where American politics actually is in 2026. Because nothing about this man's rise was supposed to happen. Not according to the consultants, not according to the donor class, not according to the party establishment that spent millions of dollars trying to stop him. He was a virtually unknown state assembly member representing a district in Queens when he entered the 2025 mayoral race. He was 33 years old. He had less than 5 years in the state legislature. Among his campaign promises were free childcare, free city bus service, city-run grocery stores, and a new Department of Community Safety that would send mental health workers instead of police to certain emergency calls. The political establishment in both parties looked at this and said, "This guy has no chance." Andrew Cuomo, the former governor with decades of experience and a massive war chest, was going to crush him. Newsonair Wikipedia he won the Democratic primary by 12 percentage points. Then he won the general election. He became the first Muslim, first South Asian, and youngest mayor of New York City in over a century. More than 2 million votes were cast the first time since 1969 that many New Yorkers turned out for a mayoral race. Newsonair +2, and now, 6 months into his mayoralty, his political strength is surging. A democratic socialist who was once demonized by leaders of both parties has earned praise from both President Donald Trump and former critics like New York Governor Kathy Hochul. He has emerged as the face of the region's sports renaissance and is now testing the limits of his newfound political muscle in a bid to reshape the Democratic Party. Fox News, how did this happen? Let's actually talk about it. Because the media tends to cover Mamdani either as a scary socialist boogeyman or as a feel-good diversity story, and both of those framings miss the actual point. Here's the real story. Real estate and business sectors banded together in support of Cuomo and donated millions to anti-Mamdani super PACs. Business leaders warned he would drive wealthy New Yorkers out of the city. They called him dangerous, inexperienced, unrealistic. They threw everything they had at a 33-year-old first-term assembly member. And it backfired spectacularly because every time they attacked him for being anti-billionaire, he used it to prove he was anti-billionaire. Every attack ad funded by real estate money became evidence that real estate money was scared of him. Their push ultimately helped Mamdani cast his campaign as a fight between working-class people and billionaires. KFF Health News, that's not a new playbook. But it worked in New York City in 2025 in a way it hasn't worked in a long time. And the reason it worked is important. People are exhausted. They're exhausted from paying $3,500 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in a city where they grew up. They're exhausted from watching billionaires get richer through a pandemic while they couldn't pay rent. They're exhausted from a Democratic Party that kept telling them to be patient, to be realistic, to support the moderate candidate because he's more electable, and then watching that moderate candidate lose anyway or win and deliver nothing. Mamdani gave them something different. Not just policy proposals, though those were real and specific. He gave them a language for their frustration that didn't feel ashamed of itself. He didn't apologize for calling himself a democratic socialist. He opened his victory speech with a quote from Eugene Debs, a man who ran for president 5 times as a socialist, including once from prison. He told a crowd of 2 million votes worth of New Yorkers, "The future is in our hands." And they believed him. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating and genuinely consequential for the rest of the country. Mamdani is now testing his political influence in 2026 primary elections, actively trying to send allies to Washington and reshape the Democratic Party from the inside. His endorsed candidates are running on his platform cost of living, criticism of Israeli government policy, framing themselves as fresh faces not beholden to business interests. One of his endorsed candidates said she wants to bring a partner to Zoran to Washington. Another said Mamdani has a celebrity status that we haven't seen the likes of since I've been alive. Fox News, think about what that means. A 34-year-old Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, 6 months into his first term, has become the most influential figure in local Democratic politics in a generation. The party establishment, the people who backed Cuomo, who warned that Mamdani would be a disaster, who counseled caution and moderation, is now watching him endorse candidates and win primaries and earn praise from the governor they thought would block him at every turn. And the Trump relationship is, frankly, one of the most interesting political dynamics happening anywhere in America right now. Trump threatened to arrest Mamdani if he won and released misinformation about his immigration status. Mamdani won. Trump then met with him in the Oval Office and called him a very rational person who wants to see New York be great again. Mamdani got Trump to commit to a $21 billion grant for affordable housing construction in New York City, and thanked him by bringing a fake Daily News front page to the Oval Office portraying Trump as a masterful builder. Trump loved it. Global news let that sink in. A Democratic socialist who called Trump a fascist and confirmed that assessment to his face in the Oval Office also got $21 billion in federal housing money out of him by appealing to his ego and his desire to be associated with building things. That's not hypocrisy. That's a very specific kind of political intelligence that the established Democratic Party, which has been failing to get anything done for years, apparently hasn't figured out yet. Is Mamdani perfect? No. His past criticism of police calling the NIPT a rogue agency and pushing for defunding came back to haunt him immediately when a New York police officer was killed in a Midtown Manhattan shooting shortly after his election. He issued an executive order to protect nice residents from immigration enforcement, prompting DHS to demand New York turn over more than 7,000 people they described as criminal illegal aliens. He's governing a city of 8.5 million people with a $115 billion budget, and turning campaign promises into policy is harder than turning campaign promises into applause lines. Wikipedia Global News, but here's what you can't ignore. The Democratic Party has been searching for a coherent identity since 2016. Maybe longer. It has cycled through hope and change, resistance, build back better, and endless internal fights about how progressive is too progressive, how left is too left, how honest you can be about economic inequality without scaring the donors who fund the campaigns. And in the middle of all that searching and hedging and triangulating, a 33-year-old guy from Queens with less than 5 years in the state legislature ran on free buses and city-run grocery stores and beat one of the most powerful political machines in America. On Capitol Hill, Democrats are now pleasantly surprised that Mamdani has become less of a political liability for the party in swing district seats than they once feared. The people who were supposed to be embarrassed by him are quietly relieved. The people who spent millions trying to stop him are watching him endorse the next generation of candidates. And the working-class New Yorkers who voted for him, the ones paying too much for rent and groceries and childcare, are watching to see if any of his promises actually materialize. Fox News, that's the real story of Zoran Mamdani, not the socialist boogeyman, not the feel-good first. A 34-year-old who looked at a Democratic Party that had lost its ability to speak plainly about economic power and said, "I'll do it differently." And enough people, more than 2 million of them, said, "Yes, try. Whether it works or not, the experiment has begun. And the whole country is watching, whether it admits it or not." If this story made you think differently about where the Democratic Party is headed, share it. Drop a comment. Do you think Mamdani represents the future of the Democrats? or is he too far left to win nationally? Because that debate is happening right now, and the answer matters for every election between now and 2028.